Hello, beautiful people. Hope you're all doing well. Just going to quickly share this on my Facebook page. So just bear with me a second while I create a poster. Share it. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Oh, lots of blip, 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 blips. Sorry, guys, just doing this quickly. Okay, so how are you all doing? What is going on in your world? Hi, Chrissy, lovely to see you. Bin Podcast send their regards. Oh, bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much to the Bin Podcast. Thank you so much. We just get this thing up as well on this one. Hi, Pete. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. Billy was actually going to get back to me about where the peacock cawing was on the Bin Podcast, because he said it was on 4 times or something last night. So I'd love to hear it, because it must be hilarious. Must be absolutely hilarious. Hi, Alexis and Draka. Hope you are both doing well. So tonight I am talking about pagan stuff. It's been used this evening. Oh, that's brilliant. I wish I got paid every time that was played. You know that. Would be so nice. Hi, Stephen. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. Stephen, I got your concern earlier on the video that I uploaded earlier about doing too much and so on. You know, if it gets to that, I will cancel a show or whatever. But at the moment, with me not studying, I have time to do this, and I'd rather do anything other than the housework. That is my thing. I do not like doing housework. Hi, blah, blah. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. So has anybody got any questions about paganism or witchcraft before I start with my waffling and storytelling? Also, I have finally got my Buy Me a Coffee up and running. So if you would like to make a donation to the channel, you can click on the link, which is up in the top of the comments. Also, it is in the description box for the video, and it is on the description of the channel. All funds that are raised on there will be going towards a microphone, a camera, and software for me to edit videos decently, rather than, because at the moment I do them all on my phone. And I cracked my screen of my phone as well. Well, I didn't do it. A cat stood on it. So I now turn them upside down all the time. It's a big fat cat that stood on it. So yeah. Does shamanism count as witchcraft? It certainly does, Draka. It certainly does. It's, I would say it's paganism. So all witches are pagans, but not all pagans are witches. So I would say that you can be a shamanic witch, definitely. You know, you can take the elements of both witchcraft and shamanism and work with them together. I've seen many shamans and witches do that. And the practices are so similar when you come down to it. You know, some people read the bones, which is known as a shamanic practice, but actually, you know, we use bones in witchcraft as well, and not in a awful, not in an awful way, not in a way of, you know, voodoo kind of thing. Blah, blah. I have actually done a email address. I couldn't figure out how to do yours, so I created a brand new one. It is also in the description box, and it is thewitchygoth@gmail.com. That's it, all lowercase. I tried to, I got it here, the one that you did, and I tried to do it and I just couldn't figure it out. I'm not very clever when it comes to tech, because when I logged into my Gmail account, it came up with my old Rainbow Yoga account, and that is full, and I had to go and delete a whole load of stuff, and oh, it was a nightmare. So this afternoon I've been doing a load of housework online on my computers, and then I had to set up my Stripe account with my Buy Me a Coffee account, and my Stripe account had forgotten who I was, and so I had to do new pictures and new verifying and all sorts of stuff. So it was a bit of a nightmare. But yes, so that email address is now live. You can email me on there. As I say, it is in the description of the channel. Did I put a link at the top of the comment section for it earlier? No, because I put up the link for the hedgehogs, didn't I? And for Buy Me a Coffee. Yeah, because there's a 38 Degrees came up with a petition for hedgehogs. And obviously, with Spike, he says hello. What are you all doing? Go and support 38 Degrees. All you need to do is sign the petition and share it on your socials. Basically, I'm sure many of you have seen this anyway, those of us who are interested in wildlife, is in our back gardens, fences normally go right down to the ground. And they want to create holes in each fence at the bottom so that hedgehogs can get through for looking for food and for mating purposes and so on. So it's a really good thing to do. In South Africa, they actually already have that. They have those concrete slabs, walls that slot into the concrete posts. And the bottom of some of them have like crisscrossers where water can drain through, because we get in South Africa, we still think I'm in South Africa sometimes. In South Africa, you get massive, massive thunderstorms that happen so fast. So much rain comes down, and all of a sudden you've got a river running through your back garden. And so it goes down the hill into the drainage. Hi, Andrea. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you there. No worries. Now we need to sort you out a Discord account. Blah, blah. Email me and we'll look at that. I'll look at that in the next week or two. Because with me having all of these new live streams, and I've got some videos to upload over the week, and then I'm busy working on two big, excuse me, two big videos at the moment. So that's important that I get that done. A lot of information on there. Specifically designed the fence in my garden with gaps at the bottom for hedgerow creatures. Perfect. But I can't, because my garden space is walls, stone walls. But my fence and my gate at the front of the house, it's a farmhouse gate. And so it's, the animals can move underneath. And I know that I do sometimes get hedgehogs in the garden, although the back field, it's fields, and I see the hedgehogs there. There's plenty of food for them to eat. So, snails, and they are welcome to come and eat the snails in my garden anytime they want, and the slugs, because I get hundreds of slugs and they come into the house as well. So I have to put salt down, and I hate it. I hate having to do it, but I detest slugs. I can't stand them. And I get the brown ones, which are the Spanish slugs, apparently. So they're not even the English ones. We're being invaded. Witchy, just been to a cool location in Doninglen. There is a monument to a witch, Maggie Wall. Inscription is Maggie Wall burnt here in 1657. It's dedicated to the thousands, I'm guessing the thousands of witches that were burned or hanged or drowned in that time period. I have heard of her. I stopped poisoning the slugs when I learned that hedgehogs eat them. I can't poison the slugs because the cats. Slug pellets are apparently tasty to cats as well, and obviously not healthy for them. Use copper rings around plants. Slugs and snails hate copper. Ooh, I will try that, because they seem to like marigolds. I planted a whole load of marigolds a couple of years ago, and they were all eaten by the next day. Are they what? Are what they? Yes, slug pellets are poisonous to cats. Yeah. I can't remember. It's on the packaging, I think, anyway. And so try not to put slug pellets down. And they like the taste of them. Apparently, they're quite sweet. So mine don't eat slugs. I honestly think that cats are pretty intelligent, because lilies are poisonous to cats, and there's a number of other plants that are poisonous to cats. And they say don't have them in the garden or whatever, but I've had lilies in the past, and the cats generally stay away from plants that, are going to bother them. I've got grass, green grass that actual grass, not weed, and they eat that, and then that makes them sick, and they eat it when their stomach's a bit upset. So it's a good thing for them to eat. Apparently, as the slugs and snails go over the copper, it induces small electric charge. Right, that's interesting. Because the worst is, I've got the front door open today for the cats to go in and out, because it's been a bit warmer today, so they've been wandering in and out. Gives me a break with the litter trays, and the house doesn't stink of bloody cat shit. But so when I go to close the door, I have to check in all the joints that there are no snails or slugs, and also remember to tap the snail's shell before you pick it up, because if you pick it up, a snail will actually die. It can kill the snail from that sudden suction removal. So if you tap on it, the snail then retreats into its shell, and it should be okay. Defo copper, fab for keeping the slugs off your veg. Brilliant. I shall remember that. So coming back to Alexis and Draka's question about shamanism, however you want to pronounce it. The way I look at shamanism is it is an ancient practice. The shaman was the oracle, the seer, in other words, the member of a tribe who generally had the knowledge of and kept the knowledge, carried the knowledge. And this is in a time before we could write, before we actually had the ability to write. And they kept the knowledge of, say, for example, childbirth, which herbs to use for which illnesses, and so on. So it's the links to witchcraft are very, very, sorry, this is skew and it's doing my head in. That's a bit better. I think the stand's a bit wonky. This is sticking to the back of my... I've tied my hair up because it's just doing the font thing today, so I've tied it up. So yeah, the shaman knew how to, perform simple ceremonies. They were very, very in touch with the earth. And I do believe, and some of you may not believe, and that's perfectly fine. We all have the choice whether we believe or not. But I do believe that they had that connection with the other side, that they were able to connect to spirits, whatever you want to call them, and they would work with them. They had this knowledge that they could see. There were also certain herbs that they ate or roots that they ate that allowed them to see far. When I lived in South Africa, before I moved back to the UK, I saw this. She was a Sangoma, which is a South African shaman. And they go through a whole initiation process. They wear specific colours, which are beaded, to show that they've gone through this specific training. And she ate a certain root to, in order for her to open herself up to receive messages and to give messages. She didn't speak in English. She spoke in, I think it was probably Zulu or Xhosa. And she had an interpreter there that would tell you what she was seeing. And it was really interesting because everything that she said was 100% spot on. And she didn't know me. I mean, this is a woman who didn't speak English. So, she couldn't understand me. And I didn't ask any questions either. I find that when I go for a reading with other people, I don't ask questions. I just say to them a general reading. Because I think it's also, if you're a reader and I am a reader and I know the meanings of the cards and I know the meanings of the crystals and I know the meanings of the runes, and it is just, so I don't want to ask them to, a specific question. I want them to just tell me what they see. And there are, I will say this, very few readers that I would actually go to. And the readers that I go to, I trust 100%. I know that they are accurate. So, because again, didn't I add an link to my email? Sorry, blah, blah. Let me... I'll do that in a minute. Let me just finish talking about, but it is thewitchygoth@gmail.com, all lowercase. In fact, let me just type it in here. At gmail.com. There it is. So you should be able to see it now. But that is the email address. So you can email me on that address. This is doing my head in behind me because it's sticking on the collar. So yeah, finding a reader is also a thing. I mean, a lot of people will say to you, oh, readers, it's lies. They don't know what they're talking about. And I do believe that there are readers out there that are, false. And it's up to your own discretion, I think, if you decide to have a reading done by somebody. But shaman will use specifically different methods than a witch will use, although they will work with the elements. They will work with animals and plants on a much deeper level than we do as witches, although it depends what kind of witch you are as well. We have, for example, hedge witches. Hedge witches are witches who basically forage around the forest and the hedges, and they work with herbs. And they also hedge between the two worlds. So they hedge between this world and the other world. So there's a sort of dual meaning there. But the shaman believe they are a conduit, basically, for a higher power to come through. But the witch can also be a conduit for a higher power to come through. And when a witch performs drawing down the moon, which she would do at full moon, she then embodies the goddess, and the messages that she gives in that ritual are not her words, but they are the goddess words. And I often say to the people who I'm giving messages to, before I do draw down the moon, I'll say to them, I'm going to go around and give you messages afterwards, but I'm not going to remember what I say to you, because it is not me that is talking. I can't remember what I say to you. So, you would have to come up to me later on and ask me a question, and I'll see if I can answer it. But, it is... Oh, thank you, Chris C. Thank you very much. I don't want to give my actual personal email address away because I already get enough spam on there. Tim and Mikey says hi. Tell them I say hi back and send them my love. And I want payment for every time they play my peacock sound. They can send me $1 every time. I think it's brilliant. I really think it's absolutely brilliant. If Mikey gets a chance, could he please clip it and send it to me, with a bit of what in the video, and he can email it to me now so I can watch it and just have a good giggle, because I think it's hilarious. I think it's absolutely hilarious that he's used that, because I did do a really good not fax machine. What did we call it when we used to do landline connection before we had Wi-Fi and internet broadband, where we had the dial-up thing. I did a good one of those once. Witchy Goth, turn on your raid options on YouTube channel. Where's that? Dial-up. Yeah, that's it. I'm not doing it now. I'm not doing it now, though. No, I'm not doing it now. $6 owed. Okay, brilliant. Well, when I do come to America, hopefully at some stage when the orange one's gone, then we can meet up and they can buy me a coffee. I don't boo hiss. You can say boo hiss as much as you like, Pete, but I'm not doing it. No, maybe later. Maybe later. Hi, Billy. Thanks for joining. Who's? Oh, yes, and Alistair Viper Scott. So yes, you'll have to tell me how to do that, because I don't know what I'm doing. Hi, lovely to see you. Your nephew and niece are both readers, not my surname, my sister's ex-husband's name. Fantastic. That's the thing. There is reading and there is reading. The cards all have a meaning. So there is, you can lay the cards out and you can say the meaning that the cards have. And, you know, once you learn those 76 cards, sorry, once you learn those 76 cards, that knowledge is with you. But there is a different way of interpreting as well, and things that you pick up from people. Over the years, I've developed my own method of reading, which is similar to a Celtic cross. A Celtic cross is you lay the cards out 1, 2 in the center, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 4 up the side. So I do what I call an elemental spread, which I double each card. So I put 1 in the center, 1 above, to the side, to the bottom, to the left. So it's north, east, south, west. And then I put a second one on the center, and again, north, east, south, west. And it gives me a really good image and picture of what's going on in that person's life. And each of those, it's not turned on in settings. Where do I turn it on? Where do I turn it? I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what I'm doing. Tell them that I'll do it later, because otherwise you're going to sit here looking at me going, while I try and fix things, because it's always that tongue, isn't it, that's out. They wanted to raid my live, but can't. Okay, I will have to have a look at where I need to do that for the settings, because I honestly have no clue what I'm doing. Readings. So yeah, anybody can do a reading. Anybody. You can learn those cards. You can learn the meanings. When I first started doing readings, I used a standard 52 deck of playing cards. I still have that deck. I still use that deck. I was 8 years old when I started. And yeah, it just flows. It just flows. And then you will find that different decks will give you different insights into what the meanings are of the cards. So each designer of each deck of tarot cards will put something of themselves into that. To turn on raid live redirect setting on YouTube, go to YouTube studio settings. Oh God. Okay. Yeah, that's something that I'm going to have to do at a later stage. Blah, blah. Can you email that to me? Thank you. Chris C is doing something now, printing 492-inch round labels for my little treat packets. Oh, that's so sweet. I think it's so nice when you print your own labels. I used to do that as well. I used to do my own labeling and stuff rather than buying them, and buy different colored paper and stuff as well. But then you've got to cut them out, unless they're sticky ones. So shaman, witches, very, very similar. And you can incorporate that into your witchcraft practice. There is no right or wrong way to practice the craft. I say that to everybody. It is open to absolutely everybody and anybody. So does anybody here who isn't already a witch think that they're a witch, or think that they may be a witch, or have an idea of what witchcraft actually is? Because I know that a lot of people, with what we see on TV, used to be, you know, you see what's bedknobs and broomsticks, and all the different witchy films and that are out there, Wizard of Oz and the new Oz films, and, you know, all of those sort of witchcraft movies that are out there. Hi, Kirsty. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. Oh, you've no need to apologize. Guys, we all have lives. We all have lives. We all have different things that we do. And really, there's no need to apologize to me at all. So I've lost track now of what I was saying. Completely lost track. Okay, let's go back to witchcraft. So I wanted to read an article by Ronald Hutton, who is one of the leading professors and authorities when it comes to paganism in the United Kingdom. Some of you will have heard of him already. He has he talks at universities. He talks about historical Britain. You may have seen him if you watch Philomena Kunk. I absolutely love her stuff. She's brilliant the way, and she actually interviewed Ronald Hutton, and his responses were very, very clever when she asked him questions. So well worth watching. There are a load of videos of his online. I will create at some stage, make a note, Debs, so that you remember to do it. Oh, that's something else to do there. Sorry, I've got all these notes and papers. Ronald Hutton playlist. And I'll just add a few videos there that you can go and have a look at, because I really do recommend his work. He is incredibly knowledgeable about paganism. He does not claim to be a pagan or a witch or a Wiccan. He says his spirituality is his own thing. So whether he is or not, we don't know, but he has looked at history in many different ways. And I think that when he started studying paganism, it really became one of his main focuses. You were speaking about Bedknobs and Broomsticks and The Wizard of Oz. Oh, yes, that's it, Kirsty. Thank you. So, yeah, all those movies that are out there about witchcraft, they're all a load of bollocks. They really are. Witches aren't like that. I'm actually watching a series at the moment. What's it called? Oh my God, it's on Netflix. It's the name of the town and witchcraft. And it's set in Britain. And it's very good, but it's also a load of bollocks. And sorry, I've just seen a message now. Once we start getting raiders, something about numbers will be nice and healthy for a newish channel. Oh, thank you, Pete. I'll do it later. I don't want to sort of break the feed right now. I really don't. I'm already blurred today. Blah blah. You hate Kunk. Her satirical take on history infuriates my something or other. Yeah, I mean, I just do enjoy her. I like her sense of humor because it's so straight faced. But we all have our, likes and dislikes. And again, that's fine. It's all perfectly fine. My mum is a witch. Not sure which type, though, as haven't spoken for 22 years. Oh, my goodness, Chris. I hope that, that you're able to repair that connection at some stage. Sent you a video link of how to turn on raid settings. Thank you. Thank you, blah, blah. That's something that I can do tomorrow morning, I think. Tim Mikey's thoughts. Yeah. Tell them, please, I love them very, very much. And I would love to have that fun. I think it'd be great, especially when I do the fun stuff, the what the fuck and the what's going on and the, all of those daft ones where I'm not talking about serious issues. Have I missed something? So maybe you are a witch. You could be a familiar witch. In other words, you could find out that one of your ancestors was a witch. Now, I have a bit of an issue with that because so many people say, oh, I come from a long line of witches. And that may be true, but it's also sometimes a load of rubbish. I don't think we need to have that ancestral connection to be witches. It is something that you pick up and you learn and you work with it. So if you are a person who wants to learn, you will learn. The word witch stems from the word wit, which means knowledge or to know. So witchcraft is knowledge craft, and Wicca is a sub thingy of witch. So Wicca was also known as Witter or Witten. So all of those words are very closely linked. And it all, Old English, the etymology of the word comes through, and we now know it as witchcraft or Wicca. Now, I'm not a Wiccan. Wicca is similar to witchcraft, but it is slight. You stick to specific patterns with Wicca. it's a more, I would say it's a more gentle version of witchcraft. So as a witch, you tend to be more, I'm not going to say chaotic because you're not chaotic, but you tend to be more encompassing of things so that you can use all sorts of things. Whereas if you're Wicca, you follow the Wiccan rules. And the main Wiccan rule is, and ye harm none. Do what ye will, and ye harm none. Which is generally a rule in witchcraft, although, you know, sometimes there's a bit of a bending of the rules. I've reached out to her a couple of years ago when I found out my maternal nan had passed. Oh, bless you. I'm so sorry. I ended up with the police at the door saying she doesn't want contact, so she has closed the door. Bless you, Chris. Yeah. Sometimes it's just best to send love and let that go and, you know, look after yourself. It can be so hard. It can be so, so hard. Sanctuary, thank you. Thank you, blah, blah. Sanctuary, that's it. That's the one. It's good. It's a good show. I will say it's good, but it's also a load of rubbish. Although it was going to kill you. I know, because I'm halfway through an episode. I was having some when I was having a bowl of porridge. It was shite. Well, there's an element of truth to it. You know, when she's mixing her potions with the herbs and everything, I would love a room like that. I mean, this cabinet here has got a load of bottles in, but I got rid of a load. I've just got too much stuff when it comes to witchcraft. You tend to be a hoarder. So, as I say, Ronald Hutton is, if you want to, you can go and look him up and find out a little bit more. So I'm going to read a paper that he wrote that I found online. I printed it off because the one online, the writing was so small that I would have been like that. So you don't want to see me looking like that. Modern pagan witchcraft, the oldest and most influential tradition of which is called Wicca, was probably the first fully formed religion that England has given the world, as opposed to its own forms of other religions, such as Christianity. It has spread across the West. Most unusually, it is also a religious tradition inspired unwittingly by academic scholars. Its roots run back to the 18th century movement called the Enlightenment, which persuaded the people in charge of Europe that witchcraft did not exist. I agree with that, but I feel that it also goes back further into the 1600s and the 1500s, the witch trials, the Malleus Maleficium, which was the witch's hammer, the book that was used. It was two German men who wrote it. Matthew Goodinson, I think he was the witch finder general in Scotland or the United Kingdom. But the two guys that wrote the Malleus Maleficium were Maleficum. I've pronounced it wrong. I always do. It's one of those things that I pronounce wrong. But the witch's hammer was basically a manual on how to find a witch, on how to test a witch, on how to discover if she was a witch or not. And most of them were women. Most of them were intelligent women. Most of them were herbalists and the midwives of the village, the wise women of the village. And they basically would arrest them, put them into a jail cell or a prison of some sort. In France, I think they use oubliettes. I love that word. I think it's a lovely word. It's not a nice thing, though. But they would keep them there, keeping them awake, not feeding them, not giving them water, so that they would then start to hallucinate. They would be sort of, not in their right mind, so to speak. And then they would bring them out of the cells and perform the trial on them. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the witch had to walk in backwards, so she wasn't facing them. She was often stripped down, and they would use long pins to stick into her moles on her body that they, skin tags and dark moles that they said were witches' marks. And if they bled, or if they didn't bleed, they were witches. If they bled, they weren't. They had all these little tricks that they used. So when they were asked Vincent is a fine Vincent Price film, Kirsty. Yeah, there's loads of films on the different witch finders that there were through the centuries. I think the one in Salem, there was the Salem one as well. So there were like, it sort of passed over to Salem, but that's a whole different story. So these women would come into this room. They'd have to walk backwards because the theory was that if they were facing them, they would cast spells on them. They would be forced to kneel down. They would be forced to, strip their clothes off, be asked certain questions, and they would then, the jurors would then demand that they confess to being a witch. And because the women, and it was generally women, it was mostly women and girls, not very many boys or men were seen as being witches, and they were then blamed as being a witch. So they were ducking stool. So either they were sat on the ducking stool, if they survived being drowned, they were a witch, they were burned, or they were hanged. I do believe that mostly in the United Kingdom, it was hanging that was the preferred method of getting rid of witches. Burned in a tar barrel, not a right long time ago in Scotland. Wow. Yeah, I think the last one in the United Kingdom, and I have a photo somewhere as well, and I don't know where it is, was down in Devon. The Devon witches, they were the last ones that were hanged here in the United Kingdom. Sorry, guys, my hernia's a little bit sore today. So, yeah, he's saying it goes back to the Enlightenment, which persuaded the people in charge of Europe that witchcraft did not exist. This meant that the numerous executions of alleged witches that had occurred over the previous 3 centuries had been a terrible mistake. And they were a terrible mistake. They were a terrible mistake. And the Enlightenment radicals therefore used this realization to attack traditional social elites and established churches. In the era of reaction following the fall of Napoleon, German conservative academics met this challenge by declaring that the alleged witches had still deserved to die because they were practitioners of a bloodthirsty and depraved surviving pagan religion. Now, modern paganism does not use blood sacrifice. Satanism does. However, if you are a witch who is a hedge witch, or I just class myself as a witch, I'm not any specific type of witch, I work with what I need to, you may sometimes use bodily fluids. And that does include using your own blood. And that's a choice that the witch would make. It's not something that is, you do not have to do that. You can use other things. But for me, personally, I use that. Don't worry, these are not spells to unalive people or to, cast curses on people. These are spells of things where you put an element of yourself into that spell, a life blood, a life-giving energy that's going into that spell. It's just a drop. Your spell is going to manifest stronger because it's got part of you in that. I hope that makes sense and you don't all think, well, I'm not watching Deb's channel again. She's bloody weird. I am weird. Where am I? They were answered in turn by French and American Republican liberals who adopted the idea of a surviving pagan religion called witchcraft, but declared that it had been a thoroughly good one. In their representation, it had honored women, nature, and freedom and been pitted against repressive medieval aristocracies and churchmen. Absolutely 100%. It was men that were afraid of women's knowledge and power. And it was the belief in, women hold life. Without women, we wouldn't have children. And I know we need men as well. I understand that. But the woman is the mother. She's the one that raises the child. I know that this is going to lead on to toxic, the the toxic manosphere, which I'm going to discuss on a different day. But women were revered. Women were revered. And now women are treated as slaves, as objects. They are sexualized. And our modern society, specifically the toxic manosphere, pushes women down, is unhappy with having strong women. Now, I just want to say, not all men. We know it's not all men. Men who are more enlightened, who are more in touch with themselves and in touch with the world around them, don't think like that. In the early 20th century, this idea was taken up enthusiastically in Britain, and by the middle of the century, it was repeated as an orthodoxy in textbooks by prominent academic experts in the medieval and early modern periods. There was accordingly some credence to the claim made in 1951 by a retired colonial civil servant called Gerald Gardner that the pagan witch religion had survived in secret to the present. Okay, so there is no evidence that it did. There is no evidence that it didn't. I think it probably did. I still believe that women would have stood up for women. Women would have helped women. And with witchcraft being predominantly female in its build, in its grounding, I feel that it's was more than likely passed down. As I say, readers would have passed down information, seers would have passed down information, and it did normally affect the females in the family, so the women in the family. So, there are men as well that it was passed down to. But again, men have been taught to hide their emotions, to not deal with emotions, whereas women have been taught it's okay to be within your emotions. So that will be one area where perhaps men have shut that down and said, no, I'm not allowed to believe that. Whereas I think these days that I know a lot of male pagans, a lot of male witches, and they're not wizards, they're not warlocks, two different things to witches. They are witches. They follow the craft. They do exactly the same as a female witch does. Gardner stated in 1939 he had been initiated into one of the last covens of it in the New Forest and learned its traditions. He now revealed it to the public in order to transmit and preserve it. He had considerable success in attracting initiates, and his religion spread across Britain, in the 1950s and crossed to North America in the 1960s. No confirmation has been found to date of the existence of the coven into which Gardner claimed to be initiated, and so thus far he is still the sole known source of his religion. So will we ever know? Will anything come to light? So in 1952, the witchcraft laws in Britain were repealed and witches were allowed to practice again. And if people like Froggage and Oompa Loompa have their way, witches will be removed. And it will only be Christianity that will be the ruling religion. So once again, we will be persecuted by men for the very same reasons. It seems most likely that he and his friends developed it and is certain that it continued to be developed by them all through the 50s. Its early rites show every sign of having been put together from a medley of different existing sources, but it also contained major features unique to it, which marked it as a distinctive and viable religious system. It rejected both monotheism and polytheism of ancient paganism to honor a divine partnership between a goddess and God, representing between them the creative and sustaining powers of the cosmos. Of these, the goddess was the more important. We still, as witches, honor the goddess first. And this goes back to ancient tribal sort of historical or history that we have gleaned was that the woman was revered in the tribe. She bled for 7 days out of a month and didn't die. She gave birth to children, and this was the time of no knowledge of childbirth and how it all worked. So to early man and the early peoples, the woman was revered. Personally, I still think it should be the way. Of these, the goddess was the most important. The religion was based on small groups called covens, likewise led by a priestess and a priest, of whom the priestess was the more important. Again, she was the one that draws the energy into herself when she does drawing down the moon. A priestess, a high priestess in a coven is actually a minister. She will minister to the coven. So members of the coven will come to her, ask questions, wanting to learn. Perhaps they've got problems in their love life or sickness or family members. And the high priestess is there to help with that. It also had a distinctive concept of the afterlife, consisting of group reincarnation, whereby people attached to each other in one life could be reborn in the same places and times in the next to continue the relationship. Now, there is an author called Dr. Michael Newton, who's written a couple of really interesting books called, the first one is Life Between Lives, where he was actually a meditation therapist, and he would do regression therapy on his patients. And what he found was, while he was regressing them, some of them would talk about a life after they had passed in a previous life and had not yet been reborn. And there's a whole structure of that within that place. And it is very, very similar to what is said here. So I'm pretty sure that Professor Hutton has actually read that. So it would make sense that to me is, it makes sense to me. Because it's that, well, I've known you, I feel like I've known you before, or I've met you before. And the Dr. Michael Newton's hypothesis is that, for example, I'm going to use myself as an example. Perhaps in a past life, I was my father's father and he was my daughter. And so we each experience what it was like to be in that position. By blending paganism and with ceremonial magic, it furthermore embodied a shift in relations with the divine, whereby deities were not worshipped but invoked into magical circles like familiar spirits and worked with as friends. All these features suited Gardner's own tastes, as did two more provocative features of his religion: that initiates worked together nude, and that they induced trance in each other by gentle binding and scourging. That's quite, that's not something that is often practiced. So let me come back to the blending of paganism and ceremonial magic. So ceremonial magic is when you use the tree of life. I'm just trying to think, Kether and all of the different levels of the tree of life. So ceremonial magic uses the Key of Solomon the King. So this book got red wine. Oh, white wine was spilt on this one. So basically, in all the sigils and pentagrams that were formed were for specific reasons, and it is also what is known as chaos magic. The Golden Dawn, for example, that is part of the ceremonial magic that they use. And then the working nude. That is up to the coven. That is up to the people of the coven. Crowley, no, because Crowley was more on Satanism, I think. I'm trying to think who it was. It could have been Crowley, but it was the person who set up the Golden Dawn. Person who set up the Golden Dawn, very closely linked as well to whatchamacallit, The ones with the handshake, the secret handshake. The name has just gone. Yeah, very close to them. And Masons, thank you, Andy, thank you. So they were, the rituals very similar. Now, this also goes back to the Knights Templar. There is an author, David Harrison, who has written so many books on this very subject, and I am mates with him. So if you want to learn about all that side of things, he's a really good source to have a look at his books. I think he's won awards and things as well. I see more people have joined in the chat. I just want to get through this, and then I'll go through the comments and discuss. Mad as an owl on a skateboard, he was. Absolutely, Andy. I'm trying to think ceremonial magic. I think Crowley did do some, but again, he bastardized it. You know, he took elements that he wanted to use from it. So again, it comes back to the Tree of Life and the elements that were worked out through there. For example, the lesser banishing ritual, which I use in my craft, is a fantastic, strong spell. Very, very powerful. I will actually film myself doing that at some stage in the future when I've got better equipment. And it's in Hebrew. And so it's all linked. Everything is linked and goes back centuries. And it's in Hebrew, and you call on various energies, archangels, and so on. And incredibly powerful, and it sends negative energy away from you. Sorry if I've a lot of energy coming from my hands right now. So the nudity, you know, it's up to the practitioner or the coven. Most witches these days practice solitary. If I am practicing solitary, yes, I do practice skyclad. If I'm practicing in a group, no, I don't. I have my ceremonial robes that I wear. And those robes are only worn for specific magic. They're not worn as daily clothings by me. They are different. However, this I've had for years and years and years. And this is the one that I wear when I do perform rituals, when I do perform hand fastings and funerals and naming ceremonies and so on. So that, and there's a couple of others that I wear as well, but this one is the big one. It's the empowered one. And then binding and scourging. Now, again, it's put here gentle binding and scourging. So the scourge is the sort of flagellation, and binding would be where you would bind the initiate's hands together behind their back, you tie it around their neck, and there's a whole process to it. And it's all about trust. It's about, do you trust us in the coven that you will perform the magic that we request of you and that you will not go and tell other people? Again, it's choice. However, the high priestess and high priest want to work with that, it's choice. What's that, Chris? History of witchcraft in Scotland. Ooh, is that Thingy's channel, Chris? Random Scottish History. There's quite a lot of channels out there with various history on witchcraft and so on. And I've been wanting to do videos for ages on it, and I've just not had the chance. Jenny, Random Scottish History. Yeah, I love Jenny. She and I were supposed to be with Reagan on one of his round tables, but I was ill at the time, so I think he got Daily Blasé on instead, and I'm so upset about that because I really, really, really wanted to speak to her. She fascinates me. I love watching her videos of all the things that she goes to visit and stuff. I think it's really brilliant. She's got a brilliant channel. So, oh yes, can you pop a link can you pop a link to her channel for me as well, Chris C, so that she, you know, she's getting a bit of, so anybody who wants to pop over to her channel, please do. I got the AI to do me a crazy skateboarding owl. It did it well. You two would have clicked, Alistair. I know we would have done. We'd probably be meeting in Scotland right now and drinking some iron brew and having deep fried Mars bars. Never had one. I bet I'd like it as well. I bet I'd really like it. I bet it's really yummy. So the binding and the scourging, again, it's not necessary. It is something that he included. And I don't necessarily agree with that. The former joined with candlelight, incense, and liturgy to create an otherworldly atmosphere, that's the nakedness, while the latter was the main means open to the aged and asthmatic gardener to achieve altered consciousness. We can do that through meditation. We don't need to do that through binding or, it can be done through meditation. The scourging has, however, since been abandoned by most Wiccans, and many also now work robed, as I said. What is clear is that Gardner's Wicca was a countercultural religion of sensational boldness. It crashed the barriers of religion and mores in the still very conservative Western world of the mid-20th century. This character also, however, enabled it to benefit from the changes in social and cultural convention which followed in the rest of the century. One was the impact of feminism, when the witch is one of the very few images of independent female power in that traditional European culture, has bequeathed to the present. Another was the rise of environmentalism, which chimed with pagan witchcraft's focus on a sacralized natural world. I'm pretty sure One Angry Pagan would recognize that, in that as witches, yes, we are, it is very, very strong on the feminist side. You do get groups of witches who will follow the goddess Diana, and they are Dianic Wiccans, and that is what they will follow. They work with her specifically. So very strong feminine energies. A lot of pagans now, a lot of witches now that I see are actually going towards the Morrigan, who is another strong warrior goddess. I see a lot of that movement, and I think that that is the sort of protective part. She was very fierce, very, very fierce in the stories that are around about her, which I'll do a video on. And of course, we worship nature. Nature is, what keeps us going. It is what keeps all witches going. Even if some witches can't get out into nature, so having a pot plant in the house, crystals, things like that. I don't know how I would survive if I lived in an inner city where I didn't have access to nature. It means so much to me. A third was emphasis on individual self-expression, self-realization, and personal growth, when this witchcraft celebrated individual power and the joys of living, as it does. And that's why I think I like going to the forest, and I like going to Thornborough Henge for the Sabbat there. A Sabbat is a ritual time of the year. There are 8 of them. So we call it the Wheel of the Year. We've just celebrated Yule, for example. I'm just going to leave that there because that's a whole other topic of witchcraft. But Yule was the one that we just celebrated, which is when the god is reborn. The Oak King takes over for the rest of the year. The Holly King is now slayed, and we move forwards into the lighter half of the year again. But yeah, it is about joy of living and recognizing the happiness that we have. There's no, I find a lot of Christianity, and I'm not saying this is all of Christianity, but a lot of Christianity is very staid. You have to live by these specific rules. Whereas as a witch, you work with happiness and joy. You bring that energy in. And if you're depressed, you are depressed. There's no, going to church on a Sunday. Your church is with you all the time. You are the church, so to speak. Accordingly, it developed steadily through the rest of the century and into the next, attracting further charismatic figures on both sides of the Atlantic who further augmented and popularized it. This enabled it to survive the collapse of its original foundation myth as professional historians from the 70s began to study the witch trials systematically and proved that those accused had not been practitioners of a surviving pagan religion. The result was a splendid paradox. What Gardner revealed had been presented as the planet's most ancient religious tradition. What it had turned out to be instead was a viable and successful new one, especially well suited to radical late modernity. And that's why it's called neo-paganism. So, yeah, the historians said that witchcraft didn't exist, not in the way that they claim, or that was claimed by the Malleus Maleficium. So that's a little history on witchcraft. I hope that wasn't too boring for you all. Let's have a look at some comments. I'm going to go to this one because I can see it better. That my screen's quite far away from me. Let's scroll up here, scroll up a little bit further. Okay. I see there's something. Hi, Daily Blase. I don't know if you're still watching, but thank you for joining. Like I said, I've missed so many people off of here. So I think that's the last message I saw where Alistair asked to please tickle the like button. If you could, that would be wonderful. Pete, he burnt them 4 at a time in a field near me. There is a plaque commemorating his good work. They say you could see the smoke by day and glow by night, and it was 15 miles away. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to find that video. I'm going to have to contact Jenny, see if we can do something together. That would be awesome. Maybe she was a turbo super witch. Hi, Andy F. Thank you for joining. Ben Riddings, hi, thank you for joining. Mwahahaha. I like that. Thank you. I sneaked in like a cat. That's okay. I've closed my door so my cats can't get in because they'll just cause havoc. He did it when he wasn't busy rewriting the Bible. Go figure. A good Christian man. Is that James? Is that King James? Chris C, IDM you on Discord a link for this chat. Crowley, Kirsty beats the L or GL models. He was not. Yeah, he was not. The Freemasons, thank you. Hi, Ben Riddings. Just going through all these comments. So, Diary of a Drug Fiend, was that Crowley? I don't know, Billy. No idea. To be honest, I've not read Crowley's work. Doesn't interest me in the slightest. If you are interested in the history of witchcraft in Scotland, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thank you for putting Jenny's channel down here. Always good. Bolskine near Forres. Thank you for putting that in. Right. Oh yeah, Daily Blase. Yes, you were doing the live stream with her and Reagan, weren't you? Yeah, she is amazing. She's got so much knowledge. Absolutely love her stuff. Really, really do. Let me see. I did read the pointy-hatted witch image was actually propaganda from the Brewers Guild against alewives. Okay, there's a few stories around the pointy hat thing. So back in the 1600s, they wore tall hats. You'll see the pictures with them all wearing these tall hats. And it was, the taller the hat, it was a sign of wealth in historical fashion. So if you had a tall hat, it was wealth. And those hats later on became used by women. Now, the point is what we use as the cone of power. So when we are casting a circle or creating magic, we always work clockwise in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's anti-clockwise. So we work Deersil. Okay, that's sunwise. And Widdershins is the opposite direction. So we work sunwise. And as we work around the circle, that energy is, that high priestess generally takes that energy that everybody's creating, and you can actually feel it in a circle. So that energy is taken into the witch. It creates a cone of power, and then she or he sends that energy up to where it's needed to go. So the point of a witch's hat represents the cone of power, or the point of the cone of power. So I hope that resonates. Sinai Park near Burton is haunted. There are so many places, Andy, that I want to visit here in the UK and do some sort of paranormal kind of investigations, but I don't have the equipment, and I'm too scared to go on my own. I'd be like a big baby crying in a corner. I do watch a huge amount of paranormal channels, though. Peter Crowley. Crowley was also a mountaineer, supposedly threatened to shoot someone on an expedition to Kanchenjunga. Didn't know that, but sounds about right. Oh, is Reagan Elite going live? Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Oh, he's probably live already and I'm waffling over his stuff. I'm sorry, guys. I believe that all witchcraft is an elemental and fluid thing. The breaking down to different categories is like different religions. It is, but I think it's also what one specific person wants to work with or believe. For example, go back to the Dianic Wicca. Dianic Wicca is generally practiced only by women, and they work as the huntress. So they embody and empower that energy within them. A Dianic Wiccan coven or witchcraft coven will never allow a man into that group. That is something that is sacrosanct to them. And then, for example, you may have somebody practicing kitchen witchcraft, which is a person who practices witchcraft in their kitchen as they cook, as they create herbs, perhaps as they sew things and make things. So my robes that I use, and I still have them today from the lady that made them for me in South Africa, she made them herself. And she said to me when she gave me my white one, she said, I see you doing so much good in this. She said, as I was sewing this, there were sparks flying off of the thread and needle. So it is that culmination of a witch making a product for a witch and blessing it is, you know, you can buy things online. You can buy Nemesis Now products and so on. And yeah, Lisa Parker and all of those designers are very, very, you know, clear on who they are and what they are, but it's produced on a line. It's a, you know, a process. It's produced on a line. So it's not produced individually. But I think that, you know, I don't see it as being a religion as such. What I do see as being a religion is Wicca, and it's the rules of Wicca, which I'll go through in a different video because there's just no time at the moment. But it is, to me as well, Kirsty, it's elemental, it's fluid. It's something that you can use whenever you want. You know, I like to use a driving one. If I'm driving and I'm stuck in traffic, I do a sort of spell on the wheel of the car, like draw a few pentagrams, you know, chant a little bit to myself, like, come on, traffic, get a move on. I need to be in a specific place. Let me get there in one piece and hope that people are okay. You know, and just repeating that chant over and over again. Oh, no, it's done its thing now. Done its thing. It's done its stupid thing. Bye, Alistair. If you catch up with this later, I've missed some stuff here. I'm so sorry, guys, if I've missed stuff. Just a reminder, if you would like to donate to the channel, you can do so. The link to my Buy Me a Coffee, which I've just finally set up today, is at the top of the chat and also in the description box on this live stream and on the description on the channel. Just a bit of begging there. Do I know the reason for 24 hours in a day? Actually, I was reading an article a couple of days ago that it's going to be changing because of the fact that the Earth is slowing down and that there will be more hours in a day. Isn't the 24 hours in a day to do with the Roman, besides the fact that it is, you know, our rotation around the sun, but isn't it to do with Roman Constantine and his thing? I'm not sure about that. So Andy, if you could let me know in the chat, that would be great. Cone of shame. Yeah, on the cats and the dogs. It's the number of times the diameter of the moon or sun fits across the sky. Okay, so I was pretty close, but yeah. Cone of Silence from Get Smart. Oh, that's a long time ago. Yes, please go and check out Reagan Elite's channel if you can. He's brilliant, and he is definitely in need of some love at the moment. He's gone through a bit of a rough time recently. You Blame the Babylonians. Oh, it's done its thing again. When I worked, I called my uniform the Robes of Shame. When walking down the corridor at work, I occasionally was heard to chant, walking the Green Mile. Yeah. Very slightly more hours is the drag of the moon's tidal forces. Yeah, the Mayans also used a 24-hour day. Yeah. And the calendar of the Mayans was very confusing. Very, very confusing. So, guys, I'm going to leave it there because it's 8:10. And I want to go finish watching the Sanctuary Witches thing that I was watching earlier. And I will be live tomorrow. I've put 6 p.m. because I'm not sure what time other people are going to be going live. So I will check in the morning to make sure that I don't clash with anybody else, because obviously we all watch everybody's channels and we all support each other, which is absolutely wonderful. Sanctuary Moon. No, it's called Sanctuary something Witches. It's set in the UK. It's on Netflix. It's a show on Netflix. It's good, but it's daft because it shows witchcraft as being something that it isn't. And that's what annoys me about the craft, is that, you know, film, TV and books like Harry Potter and all of those sort of books will lead you to believe that witchcraft is something completely different, and it's not. It is, you know, it's not evil. We can't go, you know, like that and make the dishes do themselves. I wish that I could do that. I have tried it a million times and it doesn't work. If I could cast one spell that would actually work, it would be to clean the house, that my broom and my duster would go and clean the house by itself and I didn't have to do it, because I absolutely loathe housework. I really, really do. Thanks, Kirsty. See you somewhere in the ether. Thank you, Billy, for popping in. Harry Potter is knockoff the worst witch books. Yeah. Monty Python was something completely different. Absolutely. We visited Bulgaria moons ago. The cheap hotel was an old Soviet era barracks with a big long lino floor corridor. You know what we said going back after a piss up? I don't know. If I could cast spells. Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's it. If I could cast spells, it would be to get my housework done. And I see you've put there to heal. And yeah, to heal the world and to rid it of dictatorships. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I will speak to you tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I'll see you in a chat somewhere along the day. Have a wonderful evening and blessed be. Mwah.